Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I know there's some folks still around the back, but sometimes it's very slow, especially when we've eaten a good meal. We're slow to do things, so as we start, they'll hopefully make their way round eventually. So you've had a good meal? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that you stayed behind. We're going to have some information that you'll find useful going forward. And one thing I always say is never take anything lightly now, the time that we're in. Don't take it lightly. Do your best in terms of what we've heard this morning in the message. It's all about our will and seeking to make sure that we go ahead and fulfill what we know is to do the right thing as well, for many reasons, okay? So once again, Lucille will present to us just now. And then after that, we're going to have workshops. So as I say, it's going to be very much interactive this afternoon in terms of our health and so forth. All right, so let's just bow our heads and we'll make a start. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for your presence with us. We thank you for what you're doing for us and seeking that we have the knowledge and understanding in terms of our health and our spirituality. We know you are coming soon and you want us to be prepared. So asking that your Spirit will once more be with us as Lucille does a presentation for us and as we continue this afternoon's program. Thank you for everything you've done and will continue to do for us. This we pray in your precious name at this time. Amen.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and it's great to see you all back. And usually when you do programs in the afternoon after a meal, you get the dip where people like that. And normally after a meal, what should we be doing? Walking at least 15 minutes, brisk walking after a meal. That's what we should be doing, just 15 minutes, that's all we need. So this afternoon's it's workshop. Normally when I do this workshop, I am doing it with practical demonstration. Yeah, so I'm showing what you can be doing to help reverse some of your health conditions. So both of the things are combined together. So because they're in the sanctuary, they've separated that. Yeah. So you have the kind of the theory first. And then afterwards, they're going to look at what we can do from the practical perspective. I'm just waiting for them to bring some pens, because I need to be writing on the board. But feel free to ask questions. By asking questions, this is how we learn. So you saw a little bit about Manna House, and we have a certain approach. Our approach is based on the Bible and spirit of prophecy. So, which person here has perfect health? Hands up. All right then. Who would like perfect health? All right. And that is a question I always ask people when I go to these different places, communities, churches. I ask the same question. And out of over thousands of people I've asked, I think less than 10 people have ever put up their hand to say they have perfect health. And out of those 10 people, most of them were children. The children put their hand up to say perfect health. And then I asked them, who would like perfect health? And like you, everyone put their hands up. The third question I asked, how do you get perfect health? Do you know? How do you achieve perfect health? Silence. Usually it's like Babylon, there's confusion, people saying all different things. Occasionally people say, oh, it's new starts, the laws of health and things like that. But according to the Bible and spirit of prophecy, there's only 3 things you need in order to achieve perfect health. All right, Oldham? There's 3 things that you need. All right, the first one is perfect circulation, okay? The second one is temperance. And the third one is love, joy, and hope. There it is up there. 3 things. This is according to what the Bible says and according to the spirit of prophecy. I'm not going to go into details with regards of that. We need 3 things in order to have perfect health: true temperance, love, joy, and hope, and perfect circulation. Yeah, so true temperance. What is true temperance? True temperance teaches that we shall avoid all things that is harmful and use judiciously, wisely, carefully that which is helpful. So we know that we should avoid eating, smoking, drugs, eating meat. We know that. It is harmful. Yes, but there's some things like peanuts or nuts. I'm able to eat cashews. I like cashews. But say Dr. Wesley, he can't eat cashews because he'll have an anaphylactic reaction. And that's what true temperance teaches, yeah? And then perfect circulation. So when we look in that in detail, in order to have these things, right, if you see in perfect circulation, that is related to the physical elements. So in order to have perfect circulation, you need to be having a plant-based diet. Whole food plant-based. You need to be dressing appropriately for the weather, your work, the situation. We need to be equalizing the circulation. So the same amount of clothes that you have on your torso, you should be having it on your arms and your legs. That is why many women have poor circulation, because they have a whole lot of clothes at the top, and when you look at the legs, there is very little covering. The circulation's not equalized. Now, I was cold. I've been cold most of the day. Yeah, and the reason I'm being cold because I haven't got my leggings on. I usually wear leggings to help equalize my circulation, and I'm feeling it today. All right, because I've got what, 2 layers here. I can't even call these tights 1 layer. All right, sister. I can't hear you. No, okay, you can ask questions.
Anybody.
What we can do, we can respond to that question in the
Later?
workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So write
Because
it down,
my
keep it
husband
for
and
later.
my daughter, they both have all kinds of nut allergies.
Okay, respond to it a bit later. And then we need to be drinking pure water. Most people don't drink. Yes, they drink insufficient. So we need water. And we drink according to our health condition and our weight and the work that we're doing and the environment. So when you go to a hot country from a temperate climate, you start sweating. So you need to be increasing the amount of water you drink. So we drink wisely and we drink from principle, right? So lots of people, they said, well, I don't feel thirsty. We shouldn't be drinking because we're thirsty. We should be drinking from principle. Yeah? As we get older, we lose the sense of thirst. There was research done where they put older people and young people, and they made them clinically dehydrated. And then they put some water in front of the young people. Immediately, the young people went to the water and drank it down. When they put it in front of the water, in front of the older people just carried on chatting amongst each other. They lost the sense of thirst. So we should be drinking from principle rather than waiting for thirst. We need sunshine as well. That's a given. Exercise, we talked about that today, and pure air as well. In terms of true temperance, we need to be having a pure life, avoiding everything that is harmful. We should ensure that the environment that we're living in is healthy as well. We need a daily rest and we need weekly rest. And the third element is love, joy, and hope, and that's the spiritual component. So oftentimes when you go into the hospital, they're dealing with perfect circulation, the physical. They may touch on the temperance. They cannot manage, they do not manage at all well the love, joy, and hope. And you need to have that spiritual component, a firm trust in God in order to have health. So you need faith in God. Once you have faith in God, you have relationships with each other, family, friends, colleagues, yeah? And then service. we need to be serving. Oftentimes, we're just thinking about ourselves all the time. Once we start serving other people, helping other people, our health can start improving. And the other element, we need praise and gratitude, always being thankful. So, okay, that is our approach. Perfect health, and that was based on the Bible and spirit of prophecy. So, let's look at this. How much time have I got? Till 4. All right. So we're looking at the deadly trio. Deadly trio, and those are obesity, hypertension, that's high blood pressure, and diabetes. Okay, all right then. So it tends to start off with obesity. Yes? Okay. And so these are called the metabolic syndromes. Okay. These are called metabolic syndrome. And the problem really starts off with this obesity. Yes? We start putting on excess weight. And as you know, the more weight that we put on, the more problems that incurs. So for each pound of weight, extra weight we put on, for 1 pound, we produce 5 miles of blood vessels. So each pound of weight, we produce 5 miles of blood vessel. So as you can imagine, as we're putting on this extra weight, your heart will have to start beating harder to put this blood around the body. Also, we know that with obesity, it also contributes to different types of cancers as well. Yeah? So let's have a look at this, make sure I've got everything. Also, what happens when we put down extra fat, it starts being laid down in different parts of the body. So it starts being laid down in the blood vessels. And as a result of that, the blood vessels start becoming what? Narrower. Yeah. We get extra fat in the cells as well. And they don't function as well. We also get extra fat around the internal organs. So we get extra fat around the kidneys, the liver, the heart, those different things. We also get fat in the liver. I remember when I was younger, my mum had a good friend. I call her name Sarah. Good friend, lovely lady, very caring and warm. Very suddenly, she became sick. She started going jaundice. And so she was in Leicester, and from Leicester, they transferred her to, I think it was in Birmingham, to the liver specialist unit. And she had liver failure. And within 2 weeks, she passed away. And I could never understand why, what was the cause of this? And it's only later when I was reflecting, is that this lady, Sarah, had gone on to develop non-alcoholic fatty liver. So that is what she had gone on to develop. And she was a large lady. Now, what happens with this? These conditions predispose us to developing hypertension. Remember, the heart has to beat harder because there's more blood vessels around. The blood vessel is narrower as well. So it starts leading on to hypertension. And often because we're not drinking enough water as well, it also increases the hypertension. And then from there it goes on to lead, especially because of the cells, it leads to diabetes. So let's look at some of the conditions that can result from hypertension. All right. So name some conditions that can result from hypertension. Kidney failure, all right? And diabetes as well. Yes? Diabetes also contribute to kidney failure. What else? We're looking at hypertension, yes? It leads to strokes. All right, remember, the blood vessels are narrower. Yeah, you may not be drinking, or you may be eating a fatty diet. You may be eating meat as well. It makes the blood thick, and it has a tendency to clot as well. So you may get a stroke. All right, so that's in the brain. You may get a DVT, deep vein thrombosis. That's a clot in the legs. You may get a clot in the heart, and that's a cardiac attack, sorry, cardiac attack. Cardiac arrest happens when the heart is beating too hard for too long, and it just needs to rest. Yeah. And you may get a clot in the lungs, and that will lead to a pulmonary embolism. And normally, when someone gets a pulmonary embolism, that's it. Instant, gone. Very few people recover from that. People more likely to recover from a cardiac attack than pulmonary embolism as well. All right, so we mentioned diabetes. And I'll tell you a story. When we spent some time in the Caribbean and we came back to the UK, and I got a bank nurse position, and they were giving us an induction, and then we had a diabetic nurse specialist came aboard, and it was like the end of the day, and I was just wanted to get home. I'm really bored, etc. But the story she was telling me about what happens to diabetics made me sit up. And she said, when someone becomes diabetic, this is a normal trajectory of a diabetic patient. So the first thing they do, they put them on metformin. Yeah, they put them on metformin. And then there's about, one dose, 500 milligrams, and then they don't manage their diabetes. It's increased to double, so it's 1 gram, and then they increase it some more. But there's a certain limit that they can get to. And then they say they might add some fast-acting medication like glycoside. So they'll give them the glycoside, which I believe they take it as an injection. I thought, wow. And she said, but still they don't manage their diabetes, they don't adopt any lifestyle changes. She didn't talk about the lifestyle changes. She just talked about what they would normally do. And she said, after they're on metformin, glycoside, they may have problems, they might try some other medication. I know they've got this new one now where you take it, an injection, and you have it once a week, yeah? But it's very, very painful, and it causes different side effects. And she said, well, after they're on those types of things that they haven't made any improvements, the next thing is insulin. She said, then we put them on insulin. And then after a while, so this is weeks, days, weeks, months, years, there's no improvement, it's not under control, you start seeing symptoms of their condition. So one of the things they may start getting problems with their vision. Yeah, which eventually leads to blindness. The most frequent cause of blindness in this country is diabetes. The next thing they may experience, it depends, one may come before the other. They may get peripheral neuropathy. Have you heard of that? Peripheral neuropathy, all right? And that's when there's tingling in the legs, painful legs, constantly, painful legs. You know, they're getting that. And that is because the blood vessels are narrowed. The high levels of glucose in the blood is also damaging the blood vessels. Oxygen is not reaching the extremities as well. So they may get problems in their feet, not enough oxygen going into their feet, it's painful, people don't want to walk as much. They may end up having a small cut on one of their toes that they're not aware of. They're not aware of this because they can't feel it, because they've got peripheral neuropathy. And then what happens, and she was telling me this, yes, and she says, what happens, that toes becomes infected. Eventually, they might have to have that toe amputated. And then that's a slippery road. They may start getting, someone mentioned it, kidney failure. So they may end up in that dialysis unit before they have this, or it might be vice versa. So once there's peripheral neuropathy, once there's poor circulation, the oxygen's not going to these regions, then the foot may have a problem. Foot starts going black. Yeah? And when I say black, yeah, some of us have a bit more pigmentation, but they go very dark. And I've seen it. I've seen that. Skin start peeling. May have a leg ulcer, which takes a long time to heal. In fact, we had a man come to us. He was, how old was Houghton? 91. Leg ulcers, he came. Yes. And we worked with that gentleman, and his legs started healing. Yeah. But one of the things that we had to do with him is take him off the meat. And we had to get him exercising. And even though he was immobile, he exercised. And Dr. Wesley talked about the rebounder. And what we did, we put his legs on the rebounder, and we jumped on the rebounder. And his whole body was shaking. And then he said, his legs, it's itching. That's the blood moving in his legs. Yeah? Anyway, so you may start getting leg ulcers. And then after a while, the circulation is so poor, the leg dies. And then they have a below-knee amputation. All right. Once they get the below-knee amputation, that's downhill. That is downhill because your mobility is reduced with one leg. They have one below-knee amputation. Next thing, they have a bilateral knee, so both ones, bilateral amputation. Both are amputated, and then they're immobile. And then what happens then? The obesity increases as well. And then usually, it's not long after that, they pass away. And that is a story that the diabetic nurse specialist told us. One of the things I also need to mention as well is all these also lead to dementia. Yeah, vascular dementia. And that's because not enough oxygen is getting into the blood supply that leads to the brain. So why do we call it the deadly trio? Let's go back to the red. because all these lead to disease, sickness, and death. Okay. All these leads to disease, sickness, and death. And not only that, the person who's got this condition is a burden on their family. Big burden on the family. Any questions about that? Yep. Any questions? We're going to go on to that.
Sorry, I'm saying the peripheral neuropathy.
Yes.
How do you manage that? What have you had anybody who's had that and had success in reversing that?
Yes, the gentleman I told you about, we've had quite a few. And I'm going to share you some case studies that we've had, people who've willingly consented for us to share their story. We've had a lot of people. We kind of specialize in this area.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Because my doctor told me that my thigh is all dead and I can't do anything about
Your
it.
what?
My doctor
Said that your
in
what?
Northampton, because I was
He says
referred
your
to him.
thighs.
Yeah, I've had the same feeling you're talking about in the thigh, and they referred me to him, and he said, oh, the nerves, the muscles are all dead. So I said, if he's dead, why am I feeling pain?
Peripheral neuropathy. When you say peripheral, it means extremities.
Yeah.
So it's
I
actually the
couldn't
feet.
feel, yeah, it was going down. It started in the middle and then going down. And
Okay.
it's that tingling, burning sensation.
Okay, we reverse that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we reverse that. I've got a picture on the screen. Normally, people will say, well, I know someone who's slim, and they've got diabetes. And we've had people who've mentioned that to me, you know, but I'm slim, I've always been slim, but why have I got these conditions? Why have I got diabetes? Why have I got hypertension? Yes? And I say to them, this, what you may have, there's two types of fat. You know about the two types of fat? There's visceral fat and there's subcutaneous fat. Two types. One type predisposes us to certain conditions, to these conditions, and that is the visceral fat. And the visceral fat is the one that is in your blood vessels, in the cell, around your internal organs, and those are ones that cause the problem, and most importantly, it rests in the liver. And so you get non-alcoholic fatty liver. So what we have here, we have a man, similar age, similar body mass index, and they have the same amount of body fat. So it's a total amount of body fat. But where the body fat is located will determine who's going to get the conditions and who's not. So the gentleman on your left, he has nearly 6 liters of internal fat. That's a visceral fat. So you can't see it, but it's there. Whereas the gentleman on the right, he's got quite a bit of subcutaneous fat, and that is a fat underneath the skin. It's the visible one that you see. Yeah, the fat on the thigh, the fat on the butt, the arm, whatever. However, he's only got 1.65 liters. So it's important to know where that fat lies. The more internal fat you have, the more likely you're going to get these metabolic syndromes. Now, one of the things that I need to mention is that certain ethnic groups get these conditions at a lower BMI. Which ethnic groups get these conditions at a lower BMI? African Caribbeans and South Asians. African Caribbeans and South Asians, right? So this is a bit fussy, but essentially, if your BMI is 23, because they normally say the range for a healthy BMI is 18.9 to 24.9, But for a person of South Asian origin or African Caribbean origin, their BMI should be less than 23. Less than 23. So essentially, black people need to be slim. Huh? What do you mean, how is it possible? 23, remember BMI is just a statistical figure. Yeah, it shouldn't be determine health, but they use it to look at populations. And what they found is that African Caribbean, their risk of having diabetes, diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease kicks in at a lower BMI compared to their white brethren. So that's something you need to be aware of. Okay.
Question?
Is that Brother Olden?
Two questions really. Back to the example that I had of the two men that had the different type of fat. How can you tell? I consider myself chunky, and
Chunky.
yeah. And how do you tell if you've got that internal fat and that?
When I was in Jamaica, they called it fluffy.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm fluffy. The women said, I'm fluffy. Okay, you can do a body impedance analysis. So you can get a scale. They do it now. You can go to the gym and you just stand on it and it does these rays for you and it gives you an idea of the amount of visceral fat that you have. So a healthy visceral fat is between, let's get it right now, I think it's 5 and 8. 5 and 8. Anything above that, you're predisposing your cells to these conditions. But it's just these scales. You can get them on Amazon, whatever, and it will tell you your visceral fat.
Okay.
The true way is to get a scan, but your GP is not going to pay to send you to get a scan. So I just suggest just get these body impedance analysis scales, and it will tell you. So you need to know your height, your age, and then you just stand on it. It sends some beams through you, and it'll tell you what you are.
Okay. And the second question is the average BMI that you're saying for a black person. Black people tend to have larger bone structures. Is that taken into consideration?
Where do you get that information that black people have larger bones?
I don't know. A majority of my family, we tend to be...
Pardon?
The majority of my family tend to be a bit big-boned type of people. I mean, we're not talking about fat now. When you look at like the arm, the hands, the feet, that sort of thing, they're larger than usual.
We've seen over 350 people, and we've put them through that analysis, and most of them have a normal bone range. Normal bone range. We just like to say, well, she's just big bone. That's what we say. We excuse it. Yeah. Pardon? The body impedance analysis will take account of your bone mass.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Wait, I'm coming. I've got to give you the mic.
Off.
I remember.
Yes, go ahead,
I remember
sister.
having my BMI done by my doctor. And I'm sorry, I just said to him, Dr. Carey, you're a white man, I'm a black woman. Mine is going to be different to yours. And I still, I don't have medical evidence, but I'm sorry. I don't see how theirs is the same as ours. I'm sorry.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, but my background is public health. My background is public health, and I look at research and I analyze it for myself. My doctorate, I looked at diabetes. That's what my specialist area was. And I looked at it in relation to African Caribbean people in the United Kingdom. And I hear what you're saying, sister, and if you choose to believe that, that's your choice. It's your choice. But the facts remain that Black, African, Caribbean people and South Asian people should have a lower BMI. And we're looking at the visceral fat, the internal fat that causes all these problems. All right. Okay. Do you remember that slide right at the beginning when we talked about perfect health and the 3 things that you need for perfect health? There was something that fitted in all those areas. There was something that fit within perfect circulation, that fit with true temperance, and that fit with love, joy, and health. There was one thing, and I think Dr. Wesley mentioned it this morning as well. That's right. One of the things that can help you overcome these conditions is fasting. Fasting. Jesus never said, if you fast. What did he say? He said, when you fast, this is what you need to be doing. So there's an expectation that we include in our lifestyle fasting. And the beauty about our message, the Adventist health message, it gives you 5 types of choices of fasting to do. 5 types. And this is my personal opinion. I believe the scientists took the information that was written in the Ministry of Healing in 1905 and give it fancy names to it. Intermittent fasting, calorie restricted fasting. Sister White talked about the 5 fasting approaches. Now, what I should have said, you can get a copy of these slides, but you would just need to put your email address down. There's a form that's going around. So if you want the slides, put your email address down, and please write your email legibly so that I can send you the information. So she mentioned 5 types of fasting. So if you have diabetes, the thing to do, fast. If you have hypertension, and when I'll talk about it in a moment, hypertension, as soon as you start fasting, your blood pressure starts dropping down. I will share with you a story. We went out to Jamaica. My mother and my father came with me. And the Spirit of God told me, go downstairs and take your mother's blood pressure. So I went downstairs and took my mother's blood pressure, and her blood pressure was high. It was 220 over something like 190. She saw the fear in my eyes. I know the Bible said God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. She saw the fear in my eyes because we're living at the top of a mountain, way away from the nearest hospital. No, I think it was Black River or Montego Bay. And how long it would take an hour to get there. And this was a lady who has resisted over the years the advice and support I've been giving her. And this is a lady who has already had 1 TIA, 1 stroke. This is a lady who refused to take her medication, amlodipine, but refused to make changes. You have a choice. You either take your medication or you change your lifestyle. But to do nothing is absolutely foolish. So she saw the fear in my eyes, and she said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I said, stay there. Take your medications, 2 lots. She took the 2 amlodipine. I ran down to the bush, and I picked 4 different bush. And I juiced those bushes with some pineapple juice, and I said, Mum, drink this. And during that day and the next day, she just had green juices to drink. Within 2 days, her blood pressure had come right down. So I said, half your medication, because she didn't want to take the medication. We halved it. 2 days later, it had normalized, the lowest her blood pressure had ever been for how many years. It had lowered. Within 5 days, her blood pressure had normalized. And that is because she went on a juice fast. As soon as you fast, your blood pressure starts dropping. There's a professor, his name escaped me, but he's Professor Taylor. He's done a lot of work about reversing diabetes. And all he's done is just taken what has been done before, put some fancy name to it, and owned it. And what he has done is he puts people on this calorie-restricted diet where they only have 800 calories a day, and they're drinking, it's Weight Watchers, meal replacement things. That is what they're doing. And it's having great success. I think there's a 48% rate of reversal. And the focus is for people to eliminate that visceral fat. Just losing a couple of pounds of visceral fat will lower your blood pressure and reverse the diabetes. You're on the right path to reverse it. So let's look at the 5 types of fasting that was identified in the Ministry of Healing. The first one, she said, fast for up to 2 meals. Fast for up to 2 meals. And it's interesting, she recommended a 2-meal plan. And what's a 2-meal plan? Does everyone know what a 2-meal plan is? It's just eating 2 meals a day. That's all it is. The only time she recommends a 3rd meal is if you're a laboring man. If you're working on a building site, hauling bricks and all going up and down, or most people that I know, they are sedentary, administrative. So most people, and that's what we adopt in Manna House, we follow the 2-meal plan. First meal between 6 and 8. First meal between 6 and 8. And the reason why we say 6 and 8, because it fits in with circadian rhythm. And when we look at the potency of the insulin, it's most effective between 6 and 8. So that shows us that the first meal of the day should be between 6 and 8. So you choose the time. And then Sister White recommends that you have your next meal 5 to 6 hours afterwards. However, it depends on what you're eating. I think someone mentioned this morning about meat, how long it takes to digest meat. You have to bear that in mind as well. So what she's recommending, fast for up to 2 meals. So essentially fast for a day. Yeah, fast for a day. Yeah. The second one is a fruit diet. And the purpose of that, the purpose of fasting for a day, to give the digestion a rest. You know, I usually say, I've been to different churches, and I say, the Sabbath has become the most unhealthiest day of the week. It has become the most unhealthiest day of the week. And why is that? Because we're in a building that has no windows open. Yeah? And then we have potluck lunch, where we have so many different foods there. And it becomes, when we eat the food, it becomes like Babylon, so much confusion in our stomach, so much different things. And then afterwards, like we've just done today, we're sitting down and we don't go for that digestive walk. And also in some churches, they ban people from drinking water inside the church, inside the sanctuary, in the sanctuary, yes? So the Sabbath has become one of the most unhealthiest day, and God designed it that it should be the healthiest day. All right. So the reason she gives for fasting for up to 2 weeks is that the digestion can have a rest. So after Sabbath on the Sunday, fast. Yeah? All right, people not even smiling, thinking, no way. All right, the second one, fruit diet for a few days. So that's straightforward, isn't it? Just eat fruit, brother. I can't hear you.
Sorry. The 2 meals a day.
Yes.
Your first one you said 6 to 8 o'clock in the
between
morning.
6 and 8.
And you said 5 hours to let the stomach rest.
5 to 6 hours
So
afterwards.
next meal is 2 o'clock in the afternoon-ish?
Well, it
3 o'clock?
depends. If you have it at 6, it's 12. If you have it at 8, it's 2.
And that will be it for the day, nothing else?
That will be it. Not even a seed or nut should pass your lips. Yes? I remember, just water, mine. I remember I had a lady came, and I did a body chemistry assessment, and and we were taught to go by the numbers. And the numbers were indicating that this woman was either overeating, eating in the night, eating between meals, all these different habits. And I said, do you eat between meals? No. Do you overeat? No. Do you eat at night? No. And I was thinking, they taught us go by the numbers. So the feedback I gave to her, I just want you to have 2 meals a day and not even eating anything between a meal, not a seed or a nut. And then she said an expletive. And I said, what's wrong? And she's a sedentary worker. And she said at the beginning of the week, she buys a whole lot of fruits. And she leaves half the fruits at home, the other half she puts on her table. She was a secretary, and she was constantly eating the fruit throughout the day. She didn't see fruit as food, eating between meals. But once we done eat, don't eat anything again. Just drink water. Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. The second one, fruit diet for a few days. And the purpose of that to give relief for brain workers. So if you're sitting down, if you're a pastor, if you're a student studying, go on a fruit diet. Then third one, entire abstinence for a short time, followed by simple, moderate diet. And the purpose of that, it will heal the body. So this is the one about healing yourself. And we're talking about these diseases that's going to end up with disease, sickness, and death. Entire abstinence for a short time, followed by a simple, moderate diet. And I haven't determined what a short time is. All right. The fourth one is an abstemious diet for 1 to 2 months, and she gives a time frame for that. So abstemious diet is a diet that is very plain, simple. You know, a lot of just steamed veg or lightly raw veg, a little bit of pulses, that's it. Very, very plain, very, very simple. And again, the purpose of that type of diet, it will heal the body. And the fifth diet, she says, fast for 1 to 2 days per week. All right, so it's incorporating fasting for 2 meals, but you do that for 1 to 2 days per week. And the purpose is far better than medical treatment. So rather than going to your doctor, just fast for 1 to 2 days per week.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Through the media and the sportsmen of the world today, a lot of the strongest men on earth are meat eaters. How do we combat this dietary and this information here with their performance that they do on the world stage?
Yeah, well, that's a fallacy. Yes, that's an utter fallacy. There is a video, and you can watch it, called Game Changer. I don't know if anyone watched Game Changer, and they looked at history, and they found that, like gladiators in the Roman rings, they were all plant-based people. And also, people who have endurance, they endure to the end, they keep on going, they're plant-based. And the strongest people are plant-based. So I recommend looking at that video. It's freely available. The research is there, the Game Changer. That's just pure indoctrination. There are some strong people, but what has been shown time and time again, that people who are plant-based who train, for instance, our son is plant-based, and he's muscle-bound.
Sorry, I was in the military, and when you first go in, they put you through some real crushing exercises. We did a run with all these obstacles.
Yeah.
And after 5 circuits, the instructor asked, who is tired? Half the squad put their hands up, and he said to them, you sit down. And we carried on for another 5. And he said, who's tired? Another 5 fell out. We carried on. I think we must have done about 15 times. And I think the resilience in my system was due to that I was not eating meat.
Yes.
And not only that, state of mind, but I don't believe that meat makes you any stronger.
The evidence doesn't support it.
It's probably
doesn't
just
support
a
it.
psychological thing. Plant-based food gives you the nutrients you need, and it doesn't overload the system. So you better believe it.
But we also have to recognize that some people are turned off plant-based food because people can't cook and they don't know how to use the vast range of pulses that are available. And so people just turned off because the food don't taste nice. But if you come to Manna House, whoa, you taste some lovely food. Troy.
Oh, 1 minute. Yeah. So I can hear you.
Yes. No, I just wanted to ask, is meat, are you classing fish with the meat as well?
Yes, an animal. Yes, an animal. Yeah, yes. And they say now that fish is worse because you can trace where the animal comes from, the cow, the lamb, the whatever. But fish, you don't know where it's been swimming, what sewage it's been swimming in, what contaminated water it's been swimming in.
I need to ask a question on that. Jesus fed the 5,000 and the 4,000 with fish and bread. So was the fish different then to
Yes,
now?
absolutely.
So, but yet when people read about fish in the Bible, they think fish is all right to consume. So it could be a problem. Sorry, I'll give it to Sonia. I'll come to you.
The thing is, with the fish, what you're finding now is they're not free like before. A lot of people are doing farm fishing. So it's not grown the ways. You know, you'd have the fish in the sea and everything like that. But because there's so much shortage and stuff like that, they've gone into farm fishing. And they're throwing all the chemicals and whatever that they believe your body needs in, and the fishes are eating and you're eating that.
Yeah.
So,
and I will share an experience. You know, I became a vegetarian in a meat-eating family when I was 17. And so I know how to cook chicken, fry fish and all that, yes? And I was vegetarian until I was about 30, and then we slipped back to eating organic chicken and all that. And we used to buy the salmon, yes? And what I noticed, which was different from when I was younger, when I had to prepare the fish, is that when you cut the salmon and you put it on the white paper, there was dye left in the paper. There was dye, pink dye in the paper. So you're right, sister. They use colorings and different things to make the fish flesh pink. Yeah.
Yes, you're on here about fish. And I think we all love fish. And somebody has mentioned that Jesus fed the 5,000 with 2 loaves and 5 fishes. But we need to choose the fish we buy, because there's the farm fish and there's the wild fish. You buy farm fish, it may be cheaper, but I tell you, the things they are feeding these farm fish, it's not good for the human body. So we should avoid those.
Well, at the end of the day, my position is that we should be working towards the original diet that God gave to man. And we haven't got any excuse in this country. When I was younger, you know, I'm 60, and when I was younger, it was hard. I tried to be a vegan back then. It was hard for me to be a vegan. But now you go to the Portuguese, what's it called? All the different type of shop, the South Asian shop. There's so many different pulses out there. We have no excuse in this country to adopt a whole food plant-based diet. We've got no excuse. We don't need to be eating fish. And I'm supposed to be finishing now. 4 o'clock, they said.
Just a question on YouTube. Vetlin is asking, what about people who are diabetics? How can they fast?
Well, yes, this research by Professor Taylor, and that's what I wanted to go into about fasting. So let's quickly move on. So I want to show you this lady, story of this lady. This is Amanda. She came to our program here. This is her at a graduation. This is the lady who came to the Adventist church, came to And we went to Warsaw. We did a 5-minute little presentation, and she decided to come to Manna House. Her church had taught her about prophecy, end-time events. She knew about Daniel, she knew about Revelation, but they never talked about the health message. And when we came, we talked a little bit about it. She decided to come. And she did a 10-day program, and that's her in the middle with her graduation. And then she followed the program. She totally transformed her life. And this is what she said. The change came when I changed to completely plant-based and only 1 meal a day. So she adopted a 1-meal plan for a prolonged time. It cannot happen for a 10-day course. God and the spirit of prophecy must get the credit. Only when all the health laws are active and working together will it be successful. And that was Amanda's story. Now, online, they wanted to know about fasting. We're going to talk about that now. So this, I've got this chart here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. So we've got obesity, we've got hypertension, we've got diabetes. And these are the things that contribute to reversal. These conditions can be reversed. These are all lifestyle conditions. These could come about by the choices we make. The very first one that we need to do is fasting. So what we do at Manna House, when people come, they're diabetic, we put them on a fast. And we put them on a juice fast. Yes? We put them on a juice fast. So they have 5 juices a day. Each juice is up to a pint. That's 600 mils. And they have the choice to drink all of it or not. And so the very first day, we start off, sometimes we give them turmeric milk, because these people have a lot of inflammation in their body. When you've got this condition, you've got a lot of inflammation. And so one of the things that we also give them, give them turmeric milk. And that is Brazil nuts blended with turmeric, either high-strength turmeric powder, and it's the curcumin in it that helps reduce the inflammation. And we also use fresh turmeric. So we start off day one, the first juice is either a green juice or it's turmeric milk. And then every 3 hours they have a juice. And each juice is tailored according to the person's condition. So we have a juice at 8, next juice is at 11, and we tend to give a kind of sweet juice there. And then at the same time, we give them a shot. We may give them a shot of aloe vera and garlic and lime blended together. It's a shot, a little shot. And we also give them bitter melon. So if we had opportunity, I would have demonstrated it here, but we have to do it next door. And so they have a pint of juice and they have a shot as well. Then they have another juice at 2 o'clock, and they have another juice at 5 o'clock, and then they have a broth in the evening. And that is how we do a juice fast. And it depends on the program. If someone's on insulin, we would do that juicing for 7 days. So they'll come for 14 days, and they will juice for 7 days. I've just completed a 7-day juice program myself. I've just completed one, yes, but I haven't got of those conditions. I do it just to cleanse my system. All right, so that is how we adopt the fasting. So it's a juice fasting. I call it, it's a juice feast. So some of the juices that we give people, we will go out and pick nettles. Nettles are brilliant, very, very good. Pick nettles, pick dandelions, we juice them. Juice it with pineapple, juice it with celery. Celery is very good for lowering the blood pressure. And beetroot and carrot is another one that we give as well. And we're monitoring the people as well. We're monitoring their blood sugar as well. So I hope that answers the question, on the online question.
I know someone from this church who is no longer here now, but she was really strict as a vegetarian, possibly a vegan, and she became sick and ended up dying of stomach cancer. And those things really get me, because we're talking, she did follow the health message to a T. Even her own bread she made. It wasn't, she wasn't someone who skimp on the best food. She always did the right thing. And yet, she still became very ill and died of stomach cancer. And I'm thinking, well, she did it all right.
Yes, it's not just food. There's other factors. There's the emotional component. There's the emotional component. And some people, they won't get healing until they get rid of the emotional baggage that they carry. Yes, so I can't answer. I don't know this lady, but I know that 9/10 of all diseases have their foundation in the mind. And when at Manna House, we always address the mind. We've got the spiritual component. I remember one lady, she came, and we have the morning manna, and we used to have the evening manna. And the lady was sitting there. She had diabetes. She was sitting there, quiet. And then she said, "I forgive him." And everyone looked at her. "I forgive him? What are you talking about?" And then she shared that she held resentment against her husband, who had an affair with her best friend. And she said, "I forgive him." And she forgave him. And from that point on, her healing started to commence. And I could share another story. I had a group of women who came up, and they came for a colonic party. And one lady was there, and she was shaking in anger. I couldn't do the colonic with her because of her health conditions, and she was shaking in anger. And she said, "I followed all the health message." She said, "I've been a vegetarian all my life, and I had a heart attack." And everyone looked at me, and I just asked a few questions. And I said, "How much water do you drink?" "I don't drink water. I drink fizzy and pop." "Okay, how much rest do you get?" "I'm a single parent. I have to work 2 jobs." And I asked another question. I didn't have to go any further. So I hear what you're saying. We always come across stories like that. A person supposedly followed all these different things. I had another lady who came, and she was going into kidney failure. She didn't want to go on dialysis, and she said she was following the program. Gave her a protocol. She was following the program. I kept in contact with her, and her kidney function was going lower and lower and lower. And I'm thinking, why? Over the time, talking to her on the phone, whatever, it came out. She was still eating her oxtail. She was still eating her sausages and things like that. And I thought, okay, Lord, you're showing me. Yes? So I hear what you're saying, sister. There has to be a cause why people have these conditions.
Yes, just to supplement what you're saying, I was going to say that we know somebody who's strict vegan for all these years, and she died of having brain cancer. Now, when you look at what we put in, she was good at being a vegan, but what you put on your skin, what you rub under your arm, and the dyeing of your hair, they found out, like a lot of black people who dye their hair, end up, these things they put in there is detrimental to your body. And she ended up getting brain cancer. So it's not just being a vegan all your life. You got to watch all the other areas. And there are now deodorant. When people say antiperspirant, God made us to sweat, and somebody's trying to give you things to stop you sweating. I'm very suspicious of that. They've got now aluminium-free underarm things in your hair. You don't have to die with all of those things. So when we're watching the food, what we put in, look at the outward bit. All this stuff you're putting on your skin is very bad.
Exactly. And remember the very first slide? It shows all the different areas that we need to be looking at. And the emotional component, the love, joy, and hope, a lot of people carry baggage with forgiveness.
Can I just touch on a point you just made about...
I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah, the emotional bit about forgiveness.
Wesley, what time do you want me to finish?
Yeah.
So there's some folks who did a 10-day diet plan leading up to today.
Yeah.
So we could get their experience. They call it restart then. Restart. So we could get their experiences in terms of how they felt before and how they felt now. Okay. So it's just carrying on really from where you are, to be honest, to a certain extent. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly fly through these. If you want these slides and look at them, just put your email down and I'll email it to you. It won't be straight away, but you can look at it. So some of the things that we can do, we've got walking. We talked about walking this morning. We talked about water as well. And there's a simple formula that we follow in Manna House. So it's around 37 mils for each kilogram of body weight that we should be drinking. And we should be drinking that steadily throughout the day. If you have a tendency to be getting up in the night time, then you tailor it off and you try and stop drinking by, 6 o'clock. But as soon as you wake up, drink, because that's the time when people are most likely to have a stroke or heart attack, is first thing in the morning. 6 o'clock, it's the steepest rise in your blood pressure. 6 o'clock in the morning. 6 in the evening is the highest rise in your blood pressure. Okay, so that's water. Sleep, 7 to 10 hours per night. Exposure to the sunlight. Garlic is excellent. Oh, fantastic. I love garlic. Garlic is all around it. It's good for thinning the blood. It also, it's good for immunity as well. So garlic is a good one. And one of the juices that we make for you has garlic in. Yeah. And then Imulum. So this is a brief one. It shows you God's methods for diabetes type 2. Plant-based diet, the right nutrients. You see, we've got the juices, juice fasting, exercise, herbs and minerals. We've got some herbs there which we recommend, and there's ancillary therapies as well. Let's go on with some of these. So cinnamon. Cinnamon is very, very good for obesity and diabetes. And the cinnamon that you should be taking is Ceylon cinnamon. Yeah. And then ginger as well for hypertension and obesity. We all know about hawthorn, don't we? Hawthorn's very good for cardiovascular conditions and for blood pressure. And you take hawthorn leaves with your medication as well. All right. So in the spring, you pick the hawthorn leaves. That's where the medicinal property lies. So the hawthorn bush, they're just growing all over the place. They just use them as hedge, yes? And then in the winter, you would pick the berries. So spring, pick the leaves, make a tea from them. In the autumn, winter, you pick the berries. No, they're red. Yeah, hawthorn. Yeah, yeah. If you're not sure, go with someone who knows. You don't want to poison yourself. Yeah. All right. So then we've got nettle, and you can use a leaf or root, olive leaf, red clover, milk thistle. It's very good for the liver, especially if you've got fatty liver, and if you've got high visceral fat. Then we will recommend milk thistle. You can either get the seeds and make your tea, or you can get the supplement powder and take it. Curcumin is very good for inflammation. I mentioned that already. Natto, that is for thinning the blood, aloe vera as well. So all these things are very, very good. Let's have a look. Okay, these are the different foods. There's so many foods that are very good for these conditions. Which one stands out? Celery. Celery is good. Celery is what we give. It helps to dilate the blood vessels. Okay. And there's vitamins and supplements, vitamin D. If you're spending all your time in a temperate country where you don't get sufficient sun, then you need to be taking your vitamin D supplements. Vitamin B12, B complex, and it just goes on. All right. Okay, and these are some therapies that are very, very useful. Contrast shower. Who's done a contrast shower? Yeah? Yeah? Contrast shower. All right? So, all right, contrast shower. Some people don't know what a contrast shower is. It's quite simple. So you go in the shower, you put it as hot as you possibly can bear for about 3 minutes. Now, if you've got peripheral neuropathy, you have to be careful because you do not want to burn yourself. Yes, just be mindful of that. But if it's on your shoulders, it shouldn't be a problem. So you go in the shower or a bath, 3 minutes as hot as possible, and then you come out or you turn the shower down to cold for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. If you do it properly, you can't wait for that cold water to come on your body. So it's so hot, I need to cool it down. Then you turn it down for 30 seconds, and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Making sure all my body gets the cold water, then you turn it back up for 3 more minutes, and then you put it back down for 30 seconds, 3 more minutes, so 3 rounds, and you always finish off with a cold. And if you've done it properly, afterwards, within 5-10 minutes, you feel the blood tingling all over your body. And the reason for that is to promote the circulation and the immune system as well. It boosts the immune system. You know, when I got COVID, I just used that. That's what I did. I think it lasted 24 hours and I was up and about. Okay. And then steams, fermentations, and we use that particularly for the liver. Yeah, a fermentation. We haven't got time to go into that. And hot foot baths as well. Again, if you've got peripheral neuropathy, if you have sensitive feet, be very, very mindful of that. You do not want to burn yourself. Okay, let's talk about Donna. This is Donna, right? I don't know if anyone knows her. She had so many different conditions. She had atrial fibrillation, she had high blood pressure, she was diabetic, she was on Trulicity, which was an injection that you put in your tummy, but it left a lot of bruising every time she injected herself. What else did she have? She had a whole raft of conditions. And she came on the program. There you see her next to me. That's her graduation. And this is her. We're giving her therapy. We're giving her the liver fermentation because she would have fatty liver. So we gave her this fermentation to help the circulation as well. And so this is her 3 months after coming on the program, just 3 months after coming on the program. And this is what she said. I started the program wondering if it was really going to work for me with my various ailments and conditions. I completed the 10-day health restoration program, and I can testify that it really does work. I have, listen to the language, eliminated weight, reversed my diabetes, and continue to experience the beneficial balance of a plant-based diet, exercise, and rest. It's the best investment I have made in my health, and I know that as I continue to trust in God whilst on my journey of restorative health, I will succeed in attaining goals that God wants me to achieve to fulfill His plan and purpose for my life. And she concludes that the program really does work. And I contacted Donna to have a discussion with her. This was sometimes after, about 2 years after, maybe 2.5 years later. And she says she's been on cruises. She's been all these different places. She's enjoying her life. And she knows that after she's been on the cruises, all she does, she goes back into her fasting. That is what she does. And she's maintained her weight. And she's enjoying her life, enjoying the time that she's spending with her children and grandchildren. And so later on, we'll be looking at some of the things that you can be taking to help with your diabetes and your blood pressure. But I have finished now, and I want to hand over to Dr.
Thank you. It's wonderful. That's great. Thank you so much, Lucille. That was really wonderful. Wonderful information. So you can see that for yourselves, if you ever want to obviously go to the Manna House, you know that you're going to get effective plan, 10 days or whatever. You know it's going to be really rejuvenating for yourselves and others. So I know this is a bit of a plug. I've got nothing. I'm not going to get anything. Kickbacks. I'm just saying, think about it for yourselves, for your family. Just try and get that visit and do a plan with Arthur and Lucille. Thanks for coming again, but we have not finished because we are, first of all, just before we go over, there was a restart program which some of us signed up to before today, the 10-day restart. Did anyone in this room fulfill that 10-day restart? Okay, right. Now, so how many? Okay, if you come with me. Who else? Yourself, Lucy, Louise? Who else? Come. Now, yeah, come. I'm holding your hand, so there's no need to be shy. Right. Okay. Now, it's always good when we start any sort of plan to know how you felt prior to. Yeah. All right. Quickly. We got something fantastic at the back as well for us. Okay. Something awaits for us. Exciting at the back. So now it's always good to know before we start any sort of health venture, and 10-day restart is extremely effective when it's done. So it's always good to know because it gives others as well and sort of like an impetus or say, okay, that sounds good, to know how you felt from the start to now. Just brief, just very, very brief, because we've got to go around the back.
Yeah, I don't know why Louise picked me and called me to do this, because it's something I said I'm never doing again. I've given up on all of this. But she told me about this 10-day, and then she forgot to tell me when the 10-day was starting. So by the time I said, Louise, aren't we supposed to be doing a 10-day? And she told me it was the Thursday. So I rushed into it, not prepared properly. And by the afternoon, I failed. And then I thought, Lord, I need to do this. So Friday was the night, would have been 9 days, because I started not Friday, on the Friday before last. And I started, it was hard. And all raw. I was all raw food and just fruits and raw. And 2 meals, as we said, and drinking lots of water. And my blood pressure, fab. Diabetes, the blood sugar was like, it started off at 6.5, it's now 5.6. And my weight started off at 13.1 and I'm 12.4, and I was able to get into a dress I could never get into. So I feel really good now, and I think, and I know by God's grace, I'm going to keep doing it. As Lucille said, but the girl going on the cruise, we are due to go for our 40th wedding anniversary to the Seychelles, and 5-star hotel. I thought, how am I going to do this? But you just said, when she came back, she just went straight back into it. So that gave me a bit of hope.
I never started anything. I think I've had it all wrong, but it's never too late that I am interested in going into the 10 days.
Okay.
Yes,
fantastic.
please.
Brilliant. Excellent. Okay.
Okay, I would say in general, I feel like I have more energy. So the first 2 days were supposed to be on melon only. The day I was starting, I was actually fasting the whole of that day. So my first meal at 5 o'clock was melon. And I decided to have half a melon. And I decided to go to bed early because I was like, how can I only eat half a melon a whole day? And I'll manage to go to bed. So I took myself to bed early so that even if I go hungry, I'm not tempted. And then the following day, I'm still on melon. But somehow I was so energetic. I'm usually like 8 o'clock, I'm so tired. I don't even want Hannah to talk to me. But I was like, how comes I have so much energy? So the stored energy is working and my organs are free from digesting. So that's what I thought. And as time went by, she encouraged me to post my meals. So most of the time I would have my nuts in the morning. And then during the day in between, I try not to have anything solid. But when I was really tempted, I would have some dates. But I survived mostly on water. And I would also have fruit powder. So my favorite were hibiscus powder and baobab powder. So I would just add that to water and just drink it. So then in the evening, I would make a big serving of vegetable. So like all sorts of vegetable that we bought together, and I would post it. And I'm like, if I really need to do this so I can post it. So that also kept me in check. Yeah, and
how do you feel now in terms of
yeah.
start to finish? Is it like you feel the same, any better? But is this so you're feeling more energetic?
I have more energy, and my stomach went flatter.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sleeping better, and I feel like I want to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
Positive change.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Great, fantastic, thank you.
Okay, well, I started the restart, and it was hard the first 2 days. As Lewin said, it was watermelon, and I blended, and I ate, and I blended, and I ate. And it's okay when you live by yourself, but I've got this young lady who cooks, and I don't do smells. Smells make me want to eat. So I said to her, don't cook, and I'll go out, and I go upstairs. Because she's bland, it was fine. So I wasn't tempted. But I'm telling you, eating raw is hard work. My jaw, you can only chew carrot so many times, man. I mean, it was the chewing. But by day 7, I'd lost 4.5 pounds. And my tummy's flatter. And I actually saw the tip of my toe, so I was quite happy. No, but it's worked for me. I was ill. I've been ill. I can't lie, I've been quite poorly. Not because of it, but for other things. But yeah, it is something that I'm going to be doing more of. And it's good having a gang of others to work with you, because you are encouraged, And yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been a real blessing. And Lorraine's been a trooper, and so has Auntie Enid. And Aldin's not saying nothing. Aldin, speak.
Okay. Yeah, as Lucille said about the milk thistle, I was drinking that after I had my lemon water in the morning, but I didn't realize I was drinking it because of inflammation on my chest. And I didn't know, maybe that's what helped me lose some of the weight that I lost so much of. So I'm going to keep drinking the milk thistle.
Okay, wonderful. Oh, so that's good news. So that gives us an incentive, doesn't it? In terms of restarting and just making changes. Okay, Sonia, and then we're going to go around the back. We've got a workshop. Going, so different sort of stations which you can interact with, which trust me, you'll find very, very useful. So Sonia, and then we'll close up here.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Some of you know that I'm on dialysis at the moment. I've been on it for about a year. And I was encouraged from a pastor friend of mine to undergo a health program similar to the one that Wesley is talking about today. And initially it was supposed to be like a 7 days fast, 7 days with water and a concoction of different herbs to help the kidneys. And so mine got extended for another week because I was naughty. And so within that period of time, I actually lost a lot of weight. In fact, I lost too much weight. I lost about 2 stone in a very short period of time, to the point where the doctors were concerned. So I think one thing is, when you do some of these things, particularly if you've got a chronic condition, you need to be very much aware of what your body is doing. And also that when you do lose the weight, because it will happen, that you are also, when you start to reintroduce foods, that you reintroduce the proper foods like green juices and green soups and things like that, that will help to build you up. And the goodness and the good thing about doing a detox and about cutting out the meat and the fish and the processed foods, my EGFR, and for those of you who are unaware, EGFR is a measure of how efficient your kidneys are functioning. Now, normally you're supposed to be, 90%, 100% if your kidneys are doing. My EGFR when I started was, I think it was something like 5%. But then when I did another, because they do blood tests every single month, so I get a full blood count, full workup, and I understand what my blood tests are saying, and that's a very good thing as well. If any of you are under doctor supervision, as they said this morning, be curious about your health. Don't just take their words for it. When you get a packet of medicine, read the contraindications, read what it says, because there was one tablet they had given me, which is a water tablet to get rid of excess water, and it's very common, but one of the side effects is it gives you hearing, it can, in some people, give you hearing loss, and that hearing loss can be permanent. Who wants permanent hearing loss? So you have to be careful and balance what your medication is doing against some of the natural things that can assist you. And so at the end of, I think it was a couple of months, my GFR had gone up to 8%. And that is for them, they're not going to tell you, oh, whoopee-doo, you're doing really well. They're just going to say, well, that's, they're not even going to comment. But you yourself know that what you are doing and the effects that it's having, and then what's happening in your physical body then reiterates to your mental, and then you know that God is hearing your prayers, you know he's answering them, and you know that you're on the right path, and so you continue and you see better results, and it reinforces your mind. And that full cyclical process, the more that happens is the more your faith gets reinforced in what God can do. And he specializes in impossible, unimaginable situations. And when we put him to the test, he has promised to come through for us.
Amen. Well done. Thank you. Great. Okay, so thanks for your contributions again. It's been great in terms of the information that we received this morning and this afternoon. As I said, but there's an interaction taking part now. We can go around the back and take part in the workshops, and there'll be more there to gain from the workshops as well. So you can just make your way around the back. And once again, thank you, Lucille, for your presentation this afternoon. Okay.